Hey, it's a new moon. While we're waiting for Seanan to pick up, I'm Matt. We're leaving the Dragon Moon. I don't know what else any of this. This was a crazy month for me. Putting out a lot of new courses, so I'm just finishing loading them up right now, and hopefully he'll be on this call soon. But this is Total BS Wellness. Get in there and sign up. This year is all about fundamentals. I'm starting some workshops and getting people training again. All of y'all that have been doing the one-on-one trainings, I like the Zoom calls. Take a course and then I can walk you through the course. So this tandem course thing has been really moving people forward. Look out for all of the Stop Asian Hate stuff that's going on. I'm doing some cool rallies. Check out my buddy Daniel Wu, all these people that are doing some amazing work. And again, start becoming a better ally to your community. Talk to people. And yeah, this is Total BS Wellness. I'm Matt.
Ah.
Hey.
Hey.
How's it going over there, man?
It's good. Yeah, it's good. I was just working on a couple things. Trying to actually take it slow today.
Okay.
Yeah. How's it going with you?
It's going good. I'm loading up a really cool new course. It's all about kind of mediation techniques, but a big thing I've been out kind of doing a lot of talks with people, and I've been doing stuff kind of internationally lately, thanks to the World Wide Web.
And the World Wide Web, I've heard of this.
Yeah, and so the World Wide Web has shown me that there's a lot of fearful people out there, and what I've kind of devoted this next bit to is fundamentals. You're the ox, but also I'm doing this thing on nonviolent communication. Well, people call it nonviolent communication, but it's very similar to falling, right? Most people don't think about needing to know how to fall until they're going head first over the handlebars, or
and then they're like,
they bought roller skates and they're like, I don't even know how to fall. I'm wearing short shorts and look cute. Just put me on Instagram and I can't fall if I'm on camera, right? And then, their tailbone's gone, their wrists hurt. And, it's the idea is, can we work on better communication without the potential for violence being there for us to see that it's important? Can we work on falling and getting stronger necks and hands and bones without the looming, gravity around us for all these things? And it's kind of
without the pressure. Practice without the pressure.
Yeah, because you don't want to learn how to fall on the street when there's a minivan behind you ready to take you out. You don't want to learn how to. You don't want to learn how to mediate.
Yeah, that's not the best introduction.
No. Then you realize it's not fun, right? And but I learned that this is us, right? We're a society that does that. I do it in my own way, right? So, I'm no judgments here, but the idea is there's some things that that really, 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 we keep talking about trauma so much, and it's like, well, we're traumatized many times because we live a life that allows us to ignore that certain things exist. And then when they do show up, it breaks our soul, right? So how do we...
Yeah.
So I'm doing this communication course. It's called The Art of Not Making It Weird, right? So that's loading right now. But yeah, other than that, I'm just sitting around.
The Art of Not Making It Weird.
Yeah.
Talk about a loaded title.
I know, right? Yeah.
Right. You could apply that to so many things. That could be a series, The Art of Not Making It Weird, where you could do like things that are actually practical. It could save your life. And then you could do like how to get out of an awkward coffee shop conversation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, hey, touring musician, man.
Making it weird.
Touring musician, I can get out of any conversation. You know what I mean? You're a bartender.
Well, I mean, it was always like, oh wait, I'll be right back. That's always that's the good one.
Yep. All right, so let's just getting right to it. In the world of communication, I want to get right to it because I realized like month of the dragon was nuts for me in a very calming way.
I think that was the case for a lot of people.
Yeah, so we're leaving Dragon Month. We're going, and that ends what day? Starts on the 11th or 12th,
Starts
right?
on the 12th. Starts
Okay.
on the 12th.
Cool.
The new moon starts on the 12th.
Okay, and it goes
And
until probably the 11th or 12th of the month after, right?
Yeah, it's 30 days. Yeah.
Okay.
So of June. So we go from May to June.
Okay,
Early
and
May
we're going into
to
a
early
what
June.
month?
This is going to be a water snake moon.
Okay.
And yeah, good luck understanding what the hell that is. Now you're talking to a double pig. So here I'm talking about a snake moon. I've been thinking about like how to approach this conversation and talking about the moon of snake, which would be the fourth moon. Fourth moon in the season. And it is the first full moon of summer. Dragon moon is a transition moon between spring and summer. That's technically how it's considered. It's the bridging moon. It's the moon that represents Earth. In the cycle of time, there are 4 seasons in Earth, and Earth represents like the transitional moon. So like dragon, ox moon is an Earth moon. Dog and goat are all the transitional moons between the seasons themselves. So those can be a little bit dramatic. Often can be a little bit dramatic because it's sort of like a calibration time as we're like ramping up, in this case, ramping up from spring to summer. And it's generally considered big yang, right? Big yang. This is the third moon. This is dragon moon that we're talking about is big yang. So right in the center of the 12 animals, or what we call the earthly branches, there's big yang, which is represented by dragon, and big yin, that's represented by the snake. Now, it's a little bit counterintuitive in this culture, and this is something I've been kind of struggling with, just admitting like, I'm from this materialistic culture. We approach things very differently. So when I'm thinking about like summer, you would expect just like an escalation of yang, right? Smooth, gradual escalation of yang qi toward this height of, summer, right? And so like, how is it and why is it that we have in the middle of that process big yin, which would be into this, materialist's mind, is a little bit counterintuitive. But remember, in all the cycles, there's always an alternation of yang and yin, right? That's the first calculation in the calendar, in the Chinese calendar, in the Tongshu. So you start with tiger, which is yang, you go rabbit, that's yin. You go back to yang with the dragon and go back in deeper with the snake and into yin. And that just so happens that this is, the snake moon is essentially yang coming into its full maturity. And we have this yin quality. And so, it's a reminder that yin is not something that's like winter only, right? It's actually something that's really important during the time when yang is sort of dominating the scene. And the reason for that is because, generally speaking, the balance, between yang and yin is never considered like good balance between yang and yin. You and I have talked about this. It's never 50-50. It's more like 20-80. You need a whole lot of potential, which is yin, and just a little bit of yang qi to move it around, right? You don't need like a whole bunch of excitement and no potential. That's disastrous. That's actually a recipe for major disaster. That's so the snake moon, the fourth moon, is a reminder of that we are essentially stretching a balloon. Right, as yang qi is growing atmospherically, we are stretching the balloon of potential. We're stretching the balloon of our capacity. And if you keep blowing up a balloon, it can pop, right? So this is a sort of the condition that we're going into when we're thinking about snake moon, is this need to remember both the standards that we make for ourselves, the way we actually hold ourselves, the sense of maturity, that we're not actually looking to start things, we're looking to finish things. We're looking to take things to completion. We're not looking to actually, impulsively go this way or that. Impulse is always been a risk, through the spring and summer. But by the dragon moon, your sense of impulse you should temper that. That's the notion. In the third moon, you're taking impulse into discipline. You're basically, yang qi is accepting direction. It's how you go from being a rambunctious little kid to somebody who can operate a car, have manners, speak to their elders, things of that nature. So these are sort of the images that we're working with. And so by the time we're getting to the snake moon, that sense of that sense of impulse should be more or less, so it should be very tampered down, and that we're actually working with the directions that we instituted, the sort of dreams that we had in the spring. We should be really actually looking to walk in a path of fulfillment rather than initiation. We're looking to actually bring something to conclusion rather than to start again. So this is the beginning of that time where that becomes like increasingly important.
It's why you take more naps when it's really hot. A lot of
that is
people
also true.
Gets really, really, really hot, and so you're like, I just need to sit in a hammock, get me a Danielle Steele novel, and just wonder why I've never been swept off my feet like this person.
Well,
wonder why no one really has puffy sleeves anymore, right?
No. Yeah. And that's because we're going into these liminal places. As the yang is increasing, it's considered that you have to be careful with summer. And this yang qi is the source of life. It's the vigor of life. But as it gets bigger and bigger, we have to manage the water both within our bodies and within the environment, because if you let yang qi just run unabated, it will destroy, it won't create. It's
right.
Overfeeding your crops, or giving, if it's too hot, some of them are unseasonably warm, you lose whole crops. So it's this notion that you have to have some level of both temperance, and it's also this understanding that fulfillment requires definitely a healthy degree of perseverance, but also surrender. You can't fulfill if you're constantly micromanaging and holding on and trying to create. It doesn't work. You only end up getting frustrated and destroying something. You have to also be able to let go. You have to be able to trust the momentum that's been generated. Both within this particular year, but as it turns out, in a water snake moon and in a metal ox year, that the momentum that we're accessing and the sense of surrender that we can drop into is actually really quite profound. We're actually talking lifetimes of how do I want to say this? Lifetimes of ambition, that we're talking about. There's a karma, there's a momentum of that. It goes far beyond our own lives. It's think about all the people connected to us that had dreams of fulfillment, all with us, in this time. And it's just not the karma that we've created, but the embodiment that we represent, and all the ancestors or mentors or all those people that we've been connected to, both in our own individual selves, but also collectively in society. So it could get quite deep, especially in a snake moon in an ox year. So if you're trying to be a revolutionary in this time, expect to get swiftly dismissed, because it's really about the momentum of a pretty intense momentum of karma, both individually and then societally as well, all connected to this desire, desire of life itself, desire for fulfillment. So kids born in this time actually would be it'd be very interesting to see their chart, because they definitely have a reason for coming.
Yeah, there's something very interesting. We're talking about the fundamentals. You're the ox,
Uh-huh.
and I noticed that I was at a Stop Asian Hate thing this weekend, and it was very cool because it's like there's not a lot of revolution going on there. What it is it's just, speaking of fundamentals, it's just people just coming together in community things. Like going back to the fundamentals, it's like wait, we could fight, or we could also remind ourselves that there's a lot of us and we all come together and we have this really cool culture. And it's like there's so it's kind of cool to watch that, because it's sort of like that's the idea is inside the fight, it's like the best revenge is a life well lived kind of thing, you know what I mean? And I noticed that this weekend is like some really just people just just coming together and just like bringing the food and hanging out and music, and I was like, oh yeah, I like this. But that's like the fundamental of, that is the revolution technically. Yeah, is realizing that you do have community, realize that maybe we have been isolated, but what is that fundamental thing that does move slowly? Like community moves slowly. Community comes to, that is almost, you could be exploding and you could be doing crazy stuff, but the yin of it is we come together and we hold space. So it was really cool this weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. The thread that underlies all the yin, or not even just limited to like moons where there's preponderance of yin, but just through the calendar itself is this notion of Ganying that we've talked about before in different broadcasts, and that's like the sense of resonance, and that resonance, it's such fundamental, to the calendar. And if you're actually looking to be in accordance with the calendar, one of the teachings in this kind of Confucian understanding, but it's beyond Confucianism. It's into just the cosmology itself, meaning, I distill it sometimes to being like, you get what you give. So you, but in one of the, I think the most famous ones is like, if you have a lute or some sort of stringed instrument and you pluck one string, every other instrument that's tuned to that frequency will vibrate, and so there's this notion that like we have to remember that in the height of yang, this is still very vital teaching, this very vital understanding in order to navigate this potentially tenuous place of how like things are sort of stretched to their extreme, to come back to the sort of fundamental things that tie us together. And this is like, this is the essence of reciprocity, is like not just like I make food and then you make food for me another time, but just like the sort of deeper ties that bind, of like us as recognizing each other as human beings. And it could be as simple as that, or it could be blood ties or community ties or culture ties. Like these things are incredibly vibrant necessarily during this time, because everything is so extended and accentuated and energized. And there's a level of which that vigor is kind of dangerous, so it's really important in this time to understand like the standards of behavior that we have for ourselves and that we have between each other, and be able to access those things like explicitly, So like if I'm a farmer and I have a problem with my crops, and I'm working on something, this is the time we all kind of like split the labor, and come to each other's aid to help get things off the ground, or, to aid each other in our sense of perseverance and towards fulfillment. Yeah. So it's like much more of a community vibe without it necessarily needing to be labeled as such. It's just that unspoken thing that you do for each other.
Okay. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. Brass tacks. We got the buried or married. Who's going to thrive in this? Who's going to have the struggles? Go.
In terms of struggles, I think that it's more about, I was actually talking about this the other day, like individuation is really a bad idea.
So what Matt's thinking right now is, I went to Florida public school. I don't say words like individuation, but what I do know is how to go on to the Google. So hold on. Individuation refers to the process through which a person achieves a sense of individuality, separate from the identities of others, and begins to consciously exist as a human in the world. let's get back to our talk. Stay in school.
Like, so there's a lot of characters that might be more prone to individuation, and that kind of like impulse recklessness. Like tigers would be at big risk this particular moon, really big risk.
Can I say something real quick?
Poor tigers.
There's one thing I've learned in America. Tigers are always at risk. So if you're a tiger, chill out, because you're a danger to yourself and others. Always.
This would be a particular moon where like it's a bit risky, just in terms of their habitual ways of behavior, which tend to. But like I've talked to some tigers this year, they've gotten the message. They're lying in the tall grass, and then this time it might actually be nice to come out and socialize. Yeah, but like also 1 foot in back at home. Like maybe they come out, maybe they don't. I mean, it's a very interesting time being a water snake moon, in the middle of summer like this. Expect everybody to be a little bit like, not sure if I can make it. Like I might, it's a maybe for me, not a definite I'll be there at the party or whatever, these kind of social gatherings. But what does bring us out are actually much more fundamental, like connections between us. So, but if anybody gets exuberant, horses, this is a risk. Monkeys definitely could be, they could put themselves in serious hazard. But it's any kind of chi sign that's actually very operating with a sense of individuation, where they're my way, the highway kind of thing. Tends to be really disruptive during this time, when it's more about like what the Confucians call like building merit. You show your character. You show your character by like being generous, because it's a very rich time. Like, so why be stingy? Like actually extend oneself in generosity to and where do that by listening to yourself, not out of like a sense of like obligation or like idealistic principle. That's more goat. That's later summer. Right now it's just more about listening to that sort of inner voice, almost like on an intuitive level. And for a lot of people that might mean, I'm just gonna stay focused on my work and I'll see you in a month. And so there may not be a whole lot of appetite for coming out of the hole, like to socialize. But where you do have that, it should really mean something, not just for like to be production, but just to be connected, like to be vitally connected. So I could see a lot of people like doing a lot of family gatherings at this time, particularly. So dogs, could be really good for them. Any of the family oriented signs, but you're also, there's the reason why I'm hemming on this is because it's a water snake, man. Like, it's just really hard to tell you exactly what's in store for people, because it could be anything. This is the sort of the same issue that we had with dragon at the scale in which we're operating. It's like there's sort of these subterranean motivations in our life that bubble up in this time. So I expect a lot of people to be still examining their own personal narratives of like what feel like several lifetimes ago, in this kind of space of self-reflection, as they actually examine their motives and why they do what they do and who they do it with. So it could be really incredibly vibrant time if we do that, but it requires to kind of like actually slow down, and not like always persevere. But sometimes in order for the crop to actually grow, you have to step back. You actually have to surrender. Birth and creation. I was thinking about this. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let's get it into fighting. Okay, so the yin of fighting, right? It's the idea of martial arts is self-defense. So we do need a moment to you need the patience to see what the thing's going to do. Like gardening, conversation. Like we need to just start talking, but you also need to pull back and let it start happening, right?
Yeah, that's right. Conversation.
Conversation. So that's a good thing, and that's the kind of yin of it, is that we're not just like, it's not one-sided.
Bah.
Yeah. It's funny. One of the things that's uploading right now is part of this course I'm doing is we're doing it with the police as well, and conversation management, right? Which is kind of keeping things on task at the same time not interrogating, actually having a conversation, like to build actual
Right.
rapport and openness, right? And this is very similar to our lives, because it's like sometimes, I mean, I've been noticing this with a lot of people, and I almost fell back into it the last couple of weeks. I just kind of dipped my toe into proactiveness, but me and ambition, I don't do well with ambition, and feeling that is such a horrible mess to me. Like, it's like the worst place in the world to me. It's a big tangle. Yeah, it's not. It's one thing, and this is what I tell people a lot. It's like, I remember this time where I was like, oh shit, I feel good. Like, I remember feeling good, and then it's all relative. So you feeling good is only relative to what you felt yesterday or what you felt in your life. And there are these moments where I spent a lot of my childhood in a lot of pain with back things and things like that. And then I just remember one day just kind of having a moment of mindfulness where I was like, oh wow, my body feels really good. I'm like, I feel good. And then and then when you work on people, you realize how many people good is just relative to their experience. And it's kind of a weird thing of now that I've been out a little bit more, reaching out to a little bit more people, talking to people from so many different walks of life, I've realized like a lot of us, our feeling good or our feeling of consciousness or our feeling of ambition is only relative to, our experience. So some people are just always trying to climb a ladder, always trying, like their easiest day is still go, go, go. And then some people, their craziest day is just chilling out, smoking some weed, and they had to do the dishes. You know what I mean? And
I had to have a phone conversation.
Yeah. I'll talk to some people and they'll be like, I got all this going, and you're like, okay, And then I talk to other people, and their to-do list is so vast, and so it's been a thing. But I'm kind of back into, I like this format now because I can communicate with a lot of people. Yeah. I can mainly do it through pre-recorded video, and then they just kind of email me if they have something. A lot of, there's a lot of back and forth, but I like that because I don't have to actually engage in real time all the time.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Don't have to always fill space. Yeah. No, it's really, it is true, like the slowing down aspect of the ox year in general it can be really a nourishing thing. It's just like, and that was the opportunity also in the third moon is to, I think you've said before, don't be the first. Don't try to be the first. Just try to be the best.
Yeah.
And there's wisdom in that, in the sense that cultivating your own appropriate pace is the actual the key for the development of the integrity of like whatever it is that you're doing. And it's the acceptance of those sorts of those guidelines could actually be, I don't want to say that they stem from like one true place within ourselves, because obviously from this cosmology, the practice that I'm doing is that like, there is no self. Sorry. You're a collection of motivations, from your community, from your experience, from your lineage, from, your tea, like all of these things are cofactors in your current experience. So trying to say that you're like one thing definitely enduring all the time is also a very strenuous thing to maintain, so being a bit more flexible with like what our motives are and even to the point of our identity, particularly in this moon, could actually be a worthwhile experience. It may not be very comfortable for some. I wouldn't expect it to be comfortable for rats, for instance, who are very interested in their identity as part of how they turn the wheel. And that's, and then the reflection of them able to turn the wheel is actually telling about themselves. Like, so it could be some, there could be some it could be an unsettling time for some, if they're willing to actually broach the sort of like, why am I doing this? If I feel that the balloon's about to pop and I get to this place, then, crisis of identities for some chi characters is right there. But like, again, being able to kind of adjust the pace and bring it down, really examine what your expectations are. What are your actual motives? Like, what is it that you can, I think that's the biggest opportunity, particularly in this culture, which is so defined by setting goals and having them recognized once you actually achieve them, and then setting the next set of goals and being relentless and merciless with all these things. That's one narrative in the culture, but then there's also the culture of rest that's emerging, and like the degrowth movements, the anti-hustle kind of orientations. We're in a big dialogue around these things right now. I feel like
it's interesting
in the culture,
how many people are in the anti-hustle world, but they live in the Bay Area. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like,
which is
it's going to mess you up. One of the things that I noticed was this idea around metrics, right? And we're in such a race, especially here in California, because the essence of California is gold rush, right? Every community, every kind of region has sort of their essence. Some areas, like a lot of engineers come from there. Some areas, a lot of runners or athletes or whatever. There's a reason why so many great bands came from Seattle, right? Out here, people are all about a gold rush, and the gold rush is now tech, and it used to in weed, and then it used to be gold, and there's that energy, right? But when we look at that and we start seeing like this tremendous hustle, but now the new gold rush is kind of like a social media kind of push and marketing and all these other things, right? But what I've noticed is, since it's moved to social media, the marketing is yourself. And what I was talking to people is like, so much of, and kind of bring it back to the snake is kind of going inward, right? I think we should take a second to go inward to see that many times, like, I wanted to do a thing, there's always that picture of like a beautiful scene, and then it'll be like, this is my office for the day, right? And like, technically I could go right outside and do that. I could walk right to the water and do that. But if I move the camera this far over, you're going to see a sex trafficker. And if I move it over here, you're going to see like two guys fighting with hammers, and then a lady like trying to stab someone with an ice pick. But if I just point it right there, you're going to be like,
it's all
wow.
about the frame.
It's my office for the day. You know what I mean? Yeah, but you don't know that literally someone's stealing my shit behind me. So I think if we go inside, we could start saying like, what are we trying to put out, right? And then the other side of it is, we're doing a lot of these things. It's become this meta cycle to where a lot of people are becoming tourists in their own lives. Like, we're not even present in our own experience because we just want to capture the experience to where we can put it in the edited form to where we can actually
100%.
look at it and view ourselves as an observer. So you've become a tourist in your own life. Yeah. And it's kind of so disconnected. And so I think what this snake is asking us is like, everyone wants to be out. Everyone wants to be getting the selfie and the coast and doing this. But like, take a second and just like go inside and ask yourself, do we really need to see that you're living your hashtag best life? That's important.
That's a good advice for any moon.
I mean, true. Yeah, lighten the fuck up. Yeah.
It's true. Like the images and the personas that are being sold are not like a picture of my the current state of my bathroom. I mean, maybe some people are trying to be like that ultra real, kind of thing, but like not many. Most of it is like. I mean, I've definitely took my share of time like watching like how carefully crafted some people present themselves as like this ultra world traveler, and everything that's posted is some like really amazing reflection and like this idealized sort of sculpted life. And it looks exhausting, to me. It looks so very exhausting. And but everybody kind of goes down that rabbit hole for a little while, and it's but as a persistent cultural phenomenon, I find it's just very curious. To me personally, I'm not growing up with this. I'm not being imprinted with this as a value. Like currently, like say, maybe people who are like a couple generations younger than me would be. So that place of the centralized reflection, to me, there's a ton of mirroring that's available in this time of the water snake. A ton, maybe an uncomfortable amount of mirroring that is available. So that's why I say, like, you can direct people to be like, what sort of character what standard are you holding yourself to? Is it just, like you say, to get attention? Is that the only reason why you do it? Or like, is there something in the experience for you, that you're trying to, that actually motivates you? And if it really genuinely motivates you, it's something that you would share with others in a way that potentially uplifts them as well. Because your karma is intimately connected to everyone else's.
So what would the elevator pitch be for a snake moon? What would it be? I get in an elevator. I'm all topsy-turvy in my life, and I just say,
if you're topsy-turvy,
hey man, hey, we're coming out of this thing. Yeah.
Hang on. I mean, I think that so the relationship between, in the 5-element theory, all right, so there's two kind of options that I would give in an elevator pitch. There's, of course, infinite number of options, but I'll just stay with two. So the first option would be, in 5-element theory, the relationship to the 5 elements actually is generative, right? So water creates wood, blah, blah, blah. But it's also, there's a kind of constraining, or what they call destructive. So in the case of water, that we have a water snake moon, and we're talking about this relationship between the fire of life and the water of our environment, you need water's temperance on the fire to create earth, right? Think about, just the relation. Oftentimes, if you're in a molding situation or you're trying to create clay objects, there's always this heating up to then cool down to create something solid, right? This is the chi relationship between water and fire. Then to create earth is about creating reliability, about taking like something that's just a ton of chaotic potential and cooling it down so it actually could stay the course. This is a lot of what we were attempting to do, or introduced to do, in the Dragon Moon. How to stay the course, how to keep the chi in the channels. What is it they're actually, what's the longevity play, right? That should be the deeper reflection of like, how do I create something stable and reliable through the potential of the chaos, and understand that like fulfillment is not a straightforward path. It's just not, like you think that it's just, I just put in the work and then I get paid at the end of the day. We have that model because we have this kind of crazy capitalistic model, but that's not life. Life actually operates in a lot of tangents and a lot of rest, and then, a sudden amount of growth, and then this amazing harvest. Like, have no idea where it came from. The fecundity of nature itself is a kind of mystery. This is what the snake chi is about. But it's really about how we meet that is with our own sense of capacity for reliability, routine, like actually putting in the work, putting in the time. So how do we want to direct the fire of life into something that has a sense of reliability and potential for longevity, is a little bit of what makes this time edgy, both edgy and also exciting. And that the roots of that actually are not just about our own lives, but our ancestors' lives, our communities' lives, our society's lives, the world as a whole. Like it doesn't stop the boundaries of just like what I think is important. It's quite large, and that's a deeper recognition, which would probably lead me to the second point, which I've appropriately forgotten, is that if you really want to get in there and you're really kind of discontent with how your life is, this is the time to unplug from everything, to be honest, and actually examine like where you come from. How did your ancestors eat? Like, what is it that actually truly motivates you? Is it your family? Is it your children? Is that why you do what you do? Like, is it to try to influence a whole bunch of thousands of people that you'll never meet in your life? Is that rewarding as a human being? So this is definitely a time to ask a lot of deeper questions, again, at every level of society. Whether or not we choose to do that at the larger level of societies, probably pretty tenuous, to be honest. We have a pattern of blaming each other rather than self-reflecting. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to do that as individuals. And perhaps we have a propensity in this moon to actually step into that kind of level of deep reflection. But perhaps we don't. And perhaps our reaction to that invitation is fear, is blame, is panic. And, I expect a fair bit of both, because that's just
I know personally I'll be unplugging pretty deeply. I mean, I'm doing both at the same time. I'm plugging into all this outreach stuff, but I'm doing it from this is when I'm planning all that stuff to be doing out on the road and
oh, that's right.
And so this is me slowly kind of going, all right, it's not in my best interest to keep being around people. But it is. But now I'm going to go. I'm going back to the roots of like what made what I do so popular in itself. Was people were always like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, this is what I'm doing today. If you want to check it out, check it out." And so I'm kind of going back to that, and just kind of sharing this. Yeah, sharing the process that I do, because it's like. In sharing that fundamental idea of like the best, highest level performers of all things do very simple ideas and they get very creative with them. And I've been around a lot of people in the tech world and modern corporate world and stuff like that. They're way too complex. And good engineering is what you take away, not what you add. And they're horrible engineers. They're horrible engineers of their lives, of themselves. And they... and I'll totally generalize, because I haven't met an expert yet.
You've earned it.
Yeah,
you've earned it.
I'll generalize on a level to where in that world, it doesn't allow for you to be simple. So it's I don't want to say it is their fault because they said yes to the job and they're doing it. But the idea is, how do we get the most fundamental idea and hold space for being the most creative with that, right? And really, I think also, how do we take these complex ideas that people are collecting certificate after certificate, but really boiling it down to being like, you guys do know you're all learning the same thing every time. It's always telling you to just align thoughts, words, actions, and breathe. That's really all it's telling you every time. But just because you have a certificate that tells you to breathe,
certain
people
modality.
Really think that, like, hey, did you know Chinese people invented breathing? And you're like, no, Chinese people didn't invent breathing. Like, well, actually, the Indians were breathing before the Chinese people. Shut up. Every person, all of them, I just want to take my finger and I want to put it right over the mouth and I want to go, shh.
Quiet. Yeah, I remember Ming saying...
you sound stupid.
that California was this weird mix of roosters and rabbits.
Yeah.
All this tech people commenting on something that's fundamentally intuitive, and all the intuitives actually giving completely misleading advice in every direction.
Yeah.
And everybody acting like a authoritative judge.
It's funny. I literally, right before our call, I said something to someone and I was like, yeah, I'm dealing with all this stuff and I deal with all these social justice people, and I always go, I don't know why still people think facts are going to change people's minds. And they go, actually, a scientific study has come out saying facts don't change people's minds. And I'm like, really? Y'all had to study that? Like, people are so ignorant to where they're not looking at everyone they know that smokes, everyone they know that drinks, everyone they know that texts and drives, everyone they know that does all of these things that they all know aren't moving towards them, and they're really like, and everyone knows all the facts, and everyone still does it. And I'm sitting there like, why did you need a scientific study to show you that everyone you know is doing things that we all know is bad for us? Ain't no fact going to change your mind.
Yeah, but it's only to get people's attention. It's only to actually, because that's how we consume and transmit information now. It has to be some sort of study. Yeah. But I would say, in terms of elevator pitch, I would say that, like, not that me, I'm not really, I'm not big on the whole follow your bliss, sort of rhetoric, because it can be extremely distracting, especially if you don't have any self.
I say a lot of people don't know what their bliss is, so they're following other people's idea of bliss. Yeah. Right,
and it easily becomes something that's an outsourced phenomenon, right? So like, I'm going to Costa Rica because I'm following my bliss, right?
Yeah.
And you're just taking a vacation, right? So like, it depends on how you're defining that sort of experience. But I would say that in a water snake moon, pay close attention, to whatever it is that you're pursuing and how it like lands with you, because I think if something's truly soul sucking, you're gonna know it.
Yeah,
it's gonna be very clear. And if something's very nourishing, you will know that too. And most likely that thing that's actually nourishing to you is not something that's just yours. It's actually connected to your family. It's connected to your community. It's connected to some sort of larger picture kind of phenomenon. But even if you're, I'm working on this great tech that's going to transform the world, but you're miserable, that means it's not for you, and that's actually appropriate. Like, you should pay attention to how these things actually impact your health and wellness, because in some cases, like your hypocrisy could kill you, straight up, in this time, and your overextension could kill you, and that's the real risk, when it comes to this time in summer and this kind of moon, is that you got to be really real with yourself, and this is something that has been the invitation since the first moon.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Exactly. And so in this case, for real, especially towards the end, the level of maturity that's coming, because we're actually looking at the solstice towards the end of this moon on the 21st of June. Okay. So
haven't we had like 6 solstices? Isn't it like is this like the year of the world record of solstices? Solstices?
It's the solstice year.
Yeah, haven't we had like I just feel like every weekend
we should have only had one. Although we had May Day. Yeah. Or we had equinox, the winter solstice. So this is the summer solstice is actually coming up. I mean, it's still weeks away. But what I'm saying is that, like, just the trajectory of the relationship between yang and yin is that this is steadily climbing. It's like, be careful, hydrate, be mindful of what you're actually contributing your energy to, because once we get to like the horse moon, then then your conduct really matters. Let's get the right level of habits and self-reflection involved now. Let's not wait until we're actually in trouble.
Well, and start, it's like you were talking about bliss. It's like start identifying. So many times you want to be able to say, okay, if you do something and it totally sucked and you want to do it again, maybe that's your bliss, right? If it brings levity to the suffering and things and re-identify what suffering is, right? It's like, I think we should take moments. I'm doing a course on journaling and learning how you think. You should learn how you think. Learn to define your things, like not from this new age hack snake oil bullshit of like you talk about your house, take pictures of it. No, like ask yourself like what you want, like what is your day to day, and like learn how you think. Like what are the questions we should be asking, right? What are the things that we ignore in ourselves? What are the people that we're trying to please? All these things, right? And understanding that bliss is the thing that actually is a cause and effect of doing the things that you're meant to be doing, and it will lead you through tons of suffering. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. It's like, I don't think we seek suffering on the level, because like if you seek suffering, then you'll start learning what your bliss is, because it'll be the things that you're seeking as that blanket and as that nurturing and as but we've sought bliss before we've found ourselves, and oftentimes the suffering forges who you are and makes that person stand up and become who they are. It's rite of passage.
That's a good point about the rite of passage thing, because the thing that comes up for me in relationships, especially to the snake moon, is that this notion of finding one's bliss is often couched in this, and it has to do with like kind of packaging, right? As a kind of arrival. When that's not true to human experience. There is no arrival. Like as soon as you have like a sense of arrival, you're departing. So mostly what we're talking about is some kind of process, right? Of how to, from a Confucian standpoint, how to be a human being, right? Yeah. So if the emphasis is constantly within one's own like joyfulness, right? That then the chance, if we're looking at like what brings us joy, right? The biggest the best way to answer that question from this cosmology's viewpoint is look for the joy in other people, right? Not forget your joy, like actually help other people find enjoyment, and most likely you'll find joy. Like that's how we function as human beings, is the more that we share something that we enjoy, the more there's a chance for joyfulness to occur in general. And then maybe some sort of sense of purpose, that might come out of that experience. But all of this is sort of deeply dependent on karma. Like if anybody's like trying to find the idea that there could be some sort of joy that we all like can identify with, man, it's so strange, it's found in every corner, of the planet, like so many different types of enjoyment that possibly become joy or don't, or the meaning actually doesn't have to come from a state of bliss or enjoyment. Like that's all kind of so narrow, way too narrow to actually really help human beings who truly find meaning. Because there's, for whatever your crazy predilection is, I guarantee you there's a community out there that will help you either find it or help you enjoy it, right? Or be a part of it, even if it's like the club that hates other people for having fun. Like, like there's a club that does that, and like those people are having fun.
The curmudgeon club, the curmudgeon gang. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah,
I'm such a. Oh God, I had to go out to a thing, and I loved the people, but my God, their music taste. I was just sitting around I'm like, this is just you guys are just playing music at yourselves. You're just like you don't like music. That's it's kind of like what I tell people.
Music for people who don't like music.
Yeah, it's you know what it is. It's like when you go to you talk to someone, you're like, you like sushi, and like I love sushi, and then you go eat sushi with them, and they get like, I like the tempura fried, blah blah, and they get this like crazy roll that has so much going on. You're like, oh yeah, you don't like sushi. That's sushi for people that want to say they're going to eat sushi but actually don't like sushi, and and it's fine, but like let's just call it what it is. Like you actually don't like sushi, you just want to make it as much like the hamburger that you're not eating right now that you'd rather be eating. Yeah, and I mean it's and no harm, no foul, but it's like I don't need it playing in my ear.
Don't tell me you like sushi if you did anything tempura, okay?
Yeah. I mean, if you chip the whole roll, fry the whole thing, and then you put like all the mayonnaises and there's like
unagi sauce.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. I'll eat it. Yeah, I'm in. But like,
heartburn.
I'm not calling it sushi.
It's not sushi, really. Yeah. Not really. It's more like drunk food. That's drunk food. It's really what that is. Speaking of.
But okay, so I got to run. But is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Be kind, as always. Be kind, hydrate, take it easy. Go slow. This is more than now more than ever. It's really about the water snake that we're talking about here is like kind of anaconda. Like you can't see the end of either in either direction. That's the size of it, and it actually looks like a log. You think it's not moved in centuries. So that's the kind of the momentum that we're talking about here. That's why it's associated a lot with karma. But like because the interior of it is still fire, can easily turn on a dime and like suddenly devour like a gazelle that just happened to walk by. And that's its strategy, is to sit still for an enormously long period of time until just that right moment when lunch walks by. And so it could I hope for most people it's an incredibly boring moon, but but on the occasion that you have that sort of sudden insight and that sudden spring into movement, don't ignore it. There's a message in there.
Okay, dude, thank you. Dude, that was this month's astrology with Total BS, Shane and Zook. Matt Lucas.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to take courses. Everyone needs to take courses. I have a lot of cool things coming up.
So rad.
The journaling thing, Yama level 2. I'm going to be bringing you in. I'm going to all the new courses that I'm putting up are going to be workshop style. So some people are going to be allowed to come in and do the workshop, while other people can buy the course, and then I can do some other things on Zoom. But I'm going away from teaching regular classes, and I'm only going to be teaching workshops. And then I'm going on a drive. I just ordered a portable sauna from Russia, and it's going in the back of my Jeep, and I'm going to be driving all around the country, finding cold bodies of water and putting my sauna right next to them, and I'm going to be teaching, filming from random spots near water and soaking in water and burning up in a sauna. So I'll be far away, but I'll also be very, very, very connected with people for the next bit. I'm gonna bring. I'm gonna bring glamping.
Next talk, like right next to you in a sauna.
Kind of, yeah. I'm gonna do the next talk from a towel, and I'm just gonna be sitting there, just like in a towel, just being like,
yeah. With one of those Russian, like, you know.
Yeah,
like,
I have a Vinix. I have a Vinix right upstairs. I'll soak that thing up, and I'll whip the crap out of myself. I'll just be all red. Hey,
asking me questions. Wait, what's the man?
Anyways, yeah. And I'm now 100 years old. You know what I mean? And so that's what I'll be doing. But that's what the future of what I'm doing is. I mean, like I said, I've sold most of the stuff. I've kind of killed my darlings, you know, and it's kind of nice. It was really beautiful to see my sound systems go away, a lot of my guitars, a lot of the things that I valued. But it's like I also was, you know, looking at the reality of like playing more gigs and stuff. It's just like I gotta stay out late and stuff like that. But anyways, that's the whole thing of, you know, it's like I'm really putting out the idea of we can train anywhere, and we need to understand that like we're training, like competition was for self-discovery, and so much of our training is just to train. But it's like if we're not able to walk in this world with a capacity, like, man, you're wasting your time. It's like those people that, you know, you get a 1,000 horsepower car just to sit in more traffic. You know, it's like, why do you need that car? You can do the same thing in a moped. You know, so how do we start understanding that we can use these simple tools everywhere? So that's kind of what this next couple of months. I'll probably leave like next month off and on. It'll be cool. But yeah, that's the whole.
That sounds really amazing.
Yeah.
Total BS hits the road.
Yeah, I've linked up with some pretty ballin' community members around this place, and so it's time for me to just sort of disappear, cultivate something great. Yeah, so I'm about to flood the site with some courses, but fundamental courses, communication, breathing, the journaling and writing exercises for understanding how you think. Like, that's the deal. Like, because I'm watching too many people just regurgitating more and more and more. Like, yeah, sure, you can get on Instagram and you can put your thing up and you can lip sync all day, but like, we need to know who you are. You trust me, you didn't grow up being like, I want to lip sync. No, you didn't do that. You didn't grow up thinking like, my best self and the way I'm going to get attention is to lip sync this stupid song. Right. That was not your dream.
Even,
you know what I mean?
Even if it's Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah. Oh, I heard a remix. You know how I feel about remixes. I feel like, you know, if anyone needs to be like just shot into space, is people that did remix, right? Don't like and I heard Dreams remixed over bad house music.
That's enough to get into a murderous rage.
That's putting ketchup on your sushi.
Yeah. Oh man.
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's putting American cheese on your sushi.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gross. Like, why would you do that to Dreams?
Yeah. That's somebody who didn't actually really connect with that song. Somebody who doesn't like music.
Yeah. It's someone. Yeah, I like this. I mean, this is what I talk about, like a lot of the autotune and stuff. You know, it's like it just reminds me. I always say it's like it's people that autotune to me. I've told you this. It just sounds like I just feel I'm listening to fake tits. That's all I'm doing. It's wanting to be human, but it's not real. It's trying to be too perfect, right? And that's all it is. And as long as we know that and we're aware of it.
Yeah. It reminds me of we come from a certain generation. Of course, we have an attachment to what came out of that generation, and the music before that generation, right? And through the generation into the 90s and 2000s. And I think the artists, the people who practice whatever form of art now, see that time as like a resource, but they don't really have a connection to it.
Yeah.
And so they're just looking to take those, creations and run them through a sieve or a funnel or a meat grinder to create some, new and fresh sort of take on things. But it completely decontextualizes the actual music. I've never heard any. There's just, I don't know. They'd be trying to do a remix of Rush or no, dude, that doesn't make any sense.
I did that thing with Jacques, and Jacques was I was talking to him about where it's now the generation of you think just because you bought a guitar means you can play guitar, and just because you can play guitar doesn't mean you have something to say on the guitar, right? So you need to ask yourself, are you just regurgitating ideas and saying other people's words? Because think about it, how many social media accounts have hundreds of thousands of followers, and all they are curators of other people's ideas. And those people actually don't get credit for that idea. It's just people putting up inspirational quotes. But I'm I don't get, man, what do you have to say? You want to know what the courage is? When people say live life fearlessly, the fearlessness of an artist is you stand in front of strangers and you say what's on your mind. And you speak with your voice, and that's why that's where the fearlessness of an artist comes in. You have to be yourself, and you have to say your words, and you have to watch the way people interact with it. But just to take this quote, and you're oh yeah, this quote's been in 1 million books, and it's been published, and it's been tried and true for the last 100 years. Now I'm going to put it up. Look at me. It's man, you are a safe little chicken shit. No. It's you ain't got it. I'll push you over. I'll put you just one thump in the forehead. You're going down. But you need to find out who you are. Use those quotes and let those quotes inspire you to go and do and be in the world. And then ask yourself if those quotes are valid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just because we have a certain kind of format, of how we get down and that there's a value system within that format that judges the worthiness, how many likes you've gotten, all those sort of dynamics. I think that tends to skew. 2,000 people liked it, so I'm doing good. That's really it. That's really the sole sort of bottom line is that if I got 10,000 people to like something, it could be shallow as hell, but it has value because of that. And so I feel the algorithm, that's why I always say math is not neutral.
Yeah.
It's not, it can't be, because it's being used, the numbers have meaning. If this cosmology's kind of taught me anything, it's that, the significance of 5, 8, 10, 12, 28, 64, all these major numbers in cosmology that show that numbers have meaning, necessarily, but we have this kind of disembodied notion of mathematics as being in the arc of the baseball. It's very bizarre actually to the actual human experience, but human experience isn't really actually seen as something as valuable. I have these talks with clients all the time. It's you realize that the meaning of your fate in your chart is actually your own experience, right? It's not to be validated by any kind of theism or Jupiter or anything like that. It's actually just your human experience. That's enough. That's actually enough. It doesn't need to be validated externally to your own experience. Not that you can't grow and learn and change and get a different perspective. That's going to happen anyway, hopefully.
Yeah.
You don't want to be static. That's actually not the nature of life.
Yeah.
But to have these sort of algorithms set up, it's flawed right from the start. So how could you? I applaud people that they're able to really thread a needle in that environment and actually produce some sort of like art, some actual kind of art, and that they persist in doing that because 9 times out of 10 it doesn't get recognized because it's not flashy enough, it doesn't meet certain algorithms, because the whole system itself is sort of constructed to be in such a way to encourage that level of shallowness. And
well, if we were to go on high quality, right? Yeah, there's a couple things that I've told you this all the time. It's like numbers sold. If numbers sold meant likes as well, then people would assume that McDonald's is the greatest hamburger, right? But it's
the most nourishing food ever.
Yeah. But it's there's you know what I mean? Like that would tell you that and hey, I'm a huge fan of the Kia Soul, but like a lot of those sold. But like I've also been in a Mercedes and I've been in a Ferrari and I've been in those I think are better cars, and I've been in cars. So we also want to ask ourselves again, barrier to entry. Like it's like if there's no barrier to entry, we've already entered into a mediocre pool, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Yeah,
you're already
then that's
there.
Yeah, and that's and Ming talked a lot about like the limitations of both the industrial mindset and popularity.
Yeah.
If what you're doing is popular, like it doesn't mean that it's worth anything. It just means that it's popular. It means popular. And right, and industrialization means that I get to wear the same shirt as 500,000 people.
Yeah,
and that's all that it means. But if you have this, just because you have a Volkswagen. There's advantages to that. Like my mother didn't make my clothing. But there's shifts to it as well. It's not that I'm sitting here, or I think you're sitting here saying that these things are bad. It's just that we need to recognize the limitations of those things if we're talking about certain subjects like art.
Well, it goes back to the bliss thing. Don't confuse if you're doing something that's like, hey, we're all going to this, on this cruise, or we're all going to Disney World. Don't assume are you going there? It's what I've learned is some people see a line and they're like, oh, everyone's standing in line, that must be good, right?
Right.
And
some people are like, hell no, I don't want that fried chicken sandwich.
Yeah,
I had to wait 30 minutes. No way. That's me too.
Yeah. And you just want to ask yourself, is this true? Like, even though you waited in line to get it and now you got it, then just be honest. It's like, was it worth waiting in line? Is it truly your bliss? Is it truly the thing that you want to do? Or is it, that's a thing that I think we should be mindful of
or you're not even inclined to ask that question.
Yeah.
That's also honesty. Like, oh, I don't know. It doesn't matter,
Yeah. Yeah, everyone's doing this.
If you don't have a complaint and like you actually wanted to stand in line and it's not a big deal to you, then great, do your thing.
Or the music thing. Like I ask people a lot of times, and there's no judgment there. Like I'll just be like, yeah, who's some of your favorite artists? Like I don't know, I just listen to whatever's on. And
right,
right on. But like, be okay with that, and know that that's not where your energy goes. And then they might know everything about classic cars, or they might know everything about like this, comic books or something like that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this is the notion of this reminds me of dialogues about Confucian notions of leadership, meaning that everybody has something to contribute.
Yeah.
Like, so, we're not setting everybody by the horse's standard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Production. We understand that there are, in this particular case, we were talking about chi characters. There's like a bunch, at least 60 different voices of what, something that tastes good sounds like, or like what leadership looks like, or what joyfulness is. And like that level of diversity shouldn't make us, should help us own like whatever it is that we find, and also find roots of similarity and commonality between, oh yeah, me too, kind of, but I'm a little different, and like be able to have that open doorway of conversation rather than say, all rabbits, fuck you, rooster,
Yeah.
You don't need to go there. Like there's actually ways in which things interact and overlap. And so there's an opportunity in the complexity to come to a place of commonality, to understand it's the simple things that actually bind us together.
Oh, thanks, man. Everyone
Love
get a
you,
reading from Scott. get a reading from him.
It's been great, man. Lately, it's been so fun. Like, I've been really enjoying it. So I'll see you tomorrow for dumplings.
Yep. And in the meantime, everyone should sign up Total BS. At least take one course. And I have lots of fundamentals up there. Or get a private session with me, 30-minute private on Zoom. We can get you killing it. I mean, I've even had people use the 15-minute free. Like, if you haven't done that, and I've even talked to people about like how to start body work with other, what practitioners to look to seek out. What
that must
type
be
of stuff. It's we all need
like
to share.
Like a quick 15-minute conversation. That's actually
well, I mean, because I'm not for everyone.
Too.
You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, it's like martial arts is a Ferrari. Not everyone needs one, right? So when you can, but to talk to someone that is, but like I had a guy call me and it's like, I'm not the guy, but you should call this person and get into this, or, and then once you go through that, then you're going to really understand what I do. But, it's like, there's some people just need, we have a huge network here. So it's kind of like, it's one of those things where I love showing off my friends. It's like I can be like, hey, you might want to call Scott and get a reading and then do this, stuff like that.
Well, I appreciate the way you do that, because you've been consistently supportive of everybody, and like make me aware of like, wow, there's a lot of really amazing people in the area, and like that's not everybody does that, So like that's a really valuable service that you do for everybody.
Abundance mindset. It's called abundance mindset. I'm the opposite of Apple. You know what I mean? It's like Apple's like, once you're an Apple, we need to keep you an Apple because we don't understand that societies die when they insulate themselves because we don't know what art is and we don't know what nature is. And like I said, only listen to experts for what they're an expert in, but don't, it's like, it doesn't mean they're wise, I'm trying to create a business, but like martial arts and stuff is a service. So I still offer it as a service. And then the other stuff is my business. So that's how I got to do it. Yeah. But all right, man. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.
You too. All right. Bye.
See you, man. Bye.